You likely don't have an issue playing computer games or perusing web-based entertainment on your telephone. As a matter of fact, I have no question you could sit before a screen and do both of those exercises for 2 hours, or considerably longer without breaking your fixation. However, what might be said about 30 minutes of examining? Yikes! That may be excessively hard. What about chipping away at your side business for 1 more hour? Well, doesn't sound excessively engaging. Despite the fact that you consistently know that research, working out, building a business, or something like that similarly useful will bring you more advantages over the long haul, you actually lean toward observing television, playing computer games, and looking at web-based entertainment. One could contend that it's undeniable why. One action is simple and doesn't need a lot of exertion, while the other movement is troublesome. Furthermore, it expects you to put forth a concentrated effort. Yet certain individuals appear to have no issue examining, working out, or dealing with their side tasks consistently, which makes one wonder. For what reason are certain individuals more persuaded to handle troublesome things? Furthermore, is there a method for making doing troublesome things easy? To address this inquiry, we want to see this cerebrum synapse dopamine. Dopamine is in many cases thought about a joy molecule. However, that is not exactly what it does. Dopamine makes us want things. What's more, that want gives us the inspiration to get up and do stuff. On the off chance that you don't know how strong dopamine is, let me acquaint you with a couple of tests neuroscientists did on rodents. The specialists embedded cathodes in the cerebrums of rodents. Whenever the rodent pulled a switch, the scientists animated the rodent's prize framework in the cerebrum. The outcome was that the rodents fostered a hankering areas of strength for so continued to pull the switch over and over for a really long time. The rodents would decline to eat or try and rest. They would simply continue to press the switch until they would drop from fatigue. However, at that point, the cycle was turned around. The scientists obstructed the arrival of dopamine in the cerebrum's prize community. Thus, rodents turned out to be lazy to the point that in any event, getting up to get a beverage of water was not worth the work. They wouldn't eat. They would have rather not mated. They pined for nothing by any means. You could say that the rodents lost all will to live. Be that as it may, in the event that food was put straightforwardly in their mouths, the rodents would in any case eat and appreciate the food. They simply didn't have the inspiration to get up and do it without anyone else's help. You would imagine that thirst or yearning inspires us to get food or water. But on the other hand, there's dopamine that assumes a critical part here. Those rodent investigations may be outrageous cases, yet you can see comparable impacts dopamine has in people and in our regular routines. Truth be told, your cerebrum creates needs by and large in light of how much dopamine it's hoping to get. Assuming an action delivers too little dopamine, you will not have a lot of inspiration to make it happen. Yet, in the event that an action delivers a ton of dopamine, you'll be spurred to rehash it again and again. So which ways of behaving discharge dopamine? Any action where you guess there's a potential prize delivers it. In any case, in the event that you realize there are no quick awards with the way of behaving, your cerebrum won't deliver it. For instance, before you eat solace food, your cerebrum discharges dopamine, since you guess that the food will encourage you, regardless of whether it really aggravates you. That is on the grounds that your cerebrum couldn't care less, assuming the high dopamine movement is harming to you. It simply wants a greater amount of it. A cliché model would be somebody who's a medication junkie. He realizes that what he's doing isn't great for him. Yet, all he needs is to get a greater amount of that medication. Other than getting you high, cocaine and heroin discharge unnatural measures of dopamine, which thus causes you to ache for them considerably more. Obviously, it must be noticed that almost all that delivers some measure of dopamine. In any event, drinking water when you're parched does. In any case, the most elevated dopamine discharge happens when you get a prize haphazardly. One such model is playing on a gaming machine in a club. Regardless of whether you've just been losing cash until that point, you at last hope to get a greater award. You simply don't have the foggiest idea when it could work out. Furthermore, in the present computerized society, we are flooding our cerebrums with unnaturally high measures of dopamine consistently, regardless of whether we know it. A few instances of high dopamine ways of behaving include looking at online entertainment sites, playing computer games, watching web sexual entertainment, and so on. We expect a compensation with every last one of those ways of behaving of some kind. That is the reason we're continually taking a look at our telephones. We hope to see an instant message or another warning. What's more, we know that in the end, we will get it. We're becoming like those rodents pulling the switch, attempting to get another dopamine hit. Furthermore, you could think, goodness, so what? Dislike it's hurting me at all. Yet you'd be off base. Our bodies have a natural framework called homeostasis. It implies that our body likes to keep inside physical and substance conditions at a decent level. Whenever an irregularity happens, our body adjusts to it. Allow me to give you a model. When it's chilly outside, our internal heat level falls. Accordingly, we begin shuddering to produce heat and warm the body. Notwithstanding, when it's hot outside, our internal heat level ascends. Furthermore, we begin perspiring to lose a portion of that intensity. Basically, our body is hoping to keep a temperature of around 37 degrees Celsius or 98 degrees Fahrenheit regardless of anything. However, there is another way homeostasis shows itself. Furthermore, that is through resistance. For instance, somebody who seldom drinks liquor will get plastered super quick. However, somebody who drinks consistently should drink more liquor on the grounds that their body has fostered a resistance to it. Basically, it takes increasingly more liquor to make them intoxicated on the grounds that they've become less delicate to its belongings. Furthermore, it's not vastly different with dopamine. Your body attempts to keep up with homeostasis, so it down-directs your dopamine receptors. Basically, your cerebrum becomes acclimated to having elevated degrees of dopamine, and those levels become your new typical. In this way, you foster a dopamine resilience. This can be a colossal issue on the grounds that the things that don't give you as much dopamine don't interest you any longer. Furthermore, spurring yourself to do them is substantially more difficult. They feel boring and less fun since they don't release as much dopamine compared to the things that do release it in high amounts. That's the reason people tend to prefer playing video games or browsing the web compared to studying or working on their business. Video games make us feel good and comfortable as they release a lot of dopamine. Unfortunately, things like working hard or reading release it in lower amounts. This is one reason why drug addicts who try to quit struggle with adjusting to a normal life. Their dopamine tolerance gets so high that normal life can't match it. They become like those rats from past experiments who have no motivation to do anything if there's not enough dopamine release. And it's not just drug addicts. People who are addicted to video games, social media, or internet porn experience the same thing. When their dopamine tolerance gets too high, they just can't enjoy low dopamine activities. This raises the question, is there anything that can be done to prevent this? The answer is, you need to perform a dopamine detox. By now, you might already have an idea of what a dopamine detox will look like. What you will do is set aside a day where you will avoid all the highly stimulating activities. You will stop flooding your brain with high amounts of dopamine, and you're going to let your dopamine receptors recover. Just a disclaimer. If you're suffering from drug addiction, I suggest you seek professional help, as you've probably formed a physiological and psychological dependence. And I don't want you to experience any extreme withdrawal symptoms. Now back to the detox. For one whole day, you will try to have as little fun as possible. You will not be using the internet or any technology like your phone or computer. You're not allowed to listen to music. You're not allowed to masturbate or eat any junk food. Basically, you will remove all sources of external pleasure for the entire day. You will embrace boredom. And trust me, there will be a lot of boredom. You are, however, allowed to do the following. Take a walk. Meditate and be alone with your thoughts. Reflect on your life and goals. Write down any ideas you get, not on your computer or phone, but on a physical piece of paper. All of this might seem very extreme, but if you want radical results and you want them quickly, you must be willing to take radical action. Now you might be asking yourself, how could this even work? You can think of it this way. Suppose that you've been eating every single meal at the best restaurant in your town. As a result, those fancy meals became your new normal. If someone offered you a bowl of plain rice, you would probably refuse it. It simply wouldn't taste as good as your usual restaurant meal. However, if you suddenly find yourself stranded on a deserted island and you're starving, that bowl of plain rice would taste like the best meal you've ever had. The same principle applies to dopamine. By removing the high dopamine activities, you reset your brain's reward system. This makes the low dopamine activities more enjoyable and fulfilling. It's a way to bring balance back to your life.